look up. I don't want to give you everything. I want you to eat a little bit of the meat instead of just drinking the milk. There are beliefs, and each one can be, this is where it's so annoying sometimes, but people can take things and make it where it will fit whatever they believe. For instance,
Faith and Failures Podcast.
So, are we in the end times? We're going to watch this video. So, there's a Christian guy, and his channel is called What Do You Mean? Let's go to his, let's see if I can show you that right quick. So, what do you mean? Proof of the end times. All right, I'm going to scroll back up so we can watch this. All right, so also, before we jump into this, let me say this quick. Before we jump into this, if you ever have a video that you have watched and you follow me on Instagram, you can follow me personally, Stephen Tillman, or I have a Facebook group of over 750 people in it that is a private group, so nobody can see your business or come and see what we're doing and check it out. It's a private group, so if you have questions, even if you think it's a dumb question, my theology is biblically sound, and I want to be able to, for you to ask questions and not feel like you're going to be judged. It doesn't matter if it's something you believe and you're questioning it or what the case may be. Ask away. Also, at an email, faithandfailures@gmail.com. And then the Facebook page and YouTube channel, you can comment on anything that I post. I post reels almost daily on the Instagram and Facebook page, and I do these live streams. The last 2 weeks I have not because we had a child, but I do at least once a week and then post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and sometimes extra on Saturday and Sunday. So just make sure you go subscribe, hit that like. It's free and it helps me out, helps the algorithm to get the word out and help people find my stuff more. So that's just my little spill on that. Let's get to this video.
It seems like every generation since the time of Christ believed that we were in the end times. But ever since this war in Israel started, it seems this time could be a lot different. And here's why. You can't read the Bible without noticing just how important of a role Jewish people play in God's plan to redeem humanity. Not only in terms of redemption through Christ, but also in terms of the role Israel plays in the end times. Now, of course, there's more than a few different views of the end times and how things will actually unfold. But what I want to do here is give you a really condensed version of a few of the main prophecies that some Christians believe prove that we truly are in the end times. Now, as I just mentioned, even though every generation truly believed that they were in the end times, one prophecy that had to first be fulfilled before all of the others could be fulfilled was the prophecy of the regathering. Some have said that this prophecy was mentioned by all of the prophets besides Jonah and can be found most explicitly in places like Jeremiah 31:10 and Ezekiel 37. In Ezekiel 37:21, we read, "Behold, I will take the people of Israel from the nations among which they have gone, and will gather them from all around and bring them to their own land." Now, keep in mind, this passage was written about 600 years before Jesus even walked the earth, and it says that the Jews would first be scattered and then regathered to their homeland. Now, when it comes to them being scattered, this happened several times, but most notably when Rome sent General Titus into Jerusalem to conquer it in 70 AD, killing about 10,000 Jews as soon as he arrived. The killing of the Jewish people went on, and by 135 AD, all of the Jews were officially banished from their land. This resulted in the Jews being scattered all around the world to around 70 different nations. The scattering lasted for almost 2,000 years and only seemed to get worse during the Holocaust after Hitler succeeded in killing 6 million Jews. Wow. It was during this time that people especially thought that the Jews would never be regathered to their homeland again. But what people didn't know was that it was precisely this event that generated compassion among people, which led to a call for Jews to have refuge in their homeland once again. So against all odds, the Jews were gathered once again in their homeland on May 14th of 1948. But when it comes to Bible prophecy, that's not where this story ends. The Bible also says that after the Jews were regathered in their homeland, they'll come under attack.
So this is where we come into, are we in the end times? The Bible prophecy, as he just said a minute ago. Let's go back and look at that right here.
This is like Jeremiah.
Okay, so this is Jeremiah. He who scattered Israel will gather them and will watch over his flock like a shepherd. So it's talking about a very specific of a scattering and then a gathering. So Then it's talking about a war that will come. Listen to
And
this.
this time that people especially thought that the Jews would never be regathered to their homeland again. But what people didn't know was that it was precisely this event that generated compassion among people, which led to a call for Jews to have refuge in their homeland once again. So against all odds, the Jews were gathered once again in their homeland on May 14th of 1948. But when it comes to Bible prophecy, that's not where this story ends. The Bible also says that after the Jews were regathered in their homeland, they'll come under attack. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's been going on ever since Israel returned in 1948, leading us all the way up to what we see today. And that leads us to the next prophecy. Another significant prophecy related to Israel, many believe is found in Psalm 83. In the first 4 verses, we read that Israel's
Okay, so it's Psalm 83. O God, do not remain silent. Do not turn a deaf ear. Do not stand aloof, O God. See how your enemies growl, how your foes rear their heads. With cunning, they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation so that Israel's name is remembered no more. So listen to this. This is important.
neighbors would conspire against Israel with the purpose of destroying them as a nation. With cunning, they conspire against your people. They plot against those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation so that Israel's name is remembered no more. Now, I want you to remember that this was written about 3,000 years ago, long before the existence of Hamas, who stated in the first sentence of their charter that their goal is to destroy Israel so that Israel would no longer exist as a nation.
And stay to the end of the live stream today because we're going to be talking in depth of what Hamas is so we can explain that and understand exactly who is coming against Israel.
It reads, Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam obliterates it. Wow. Iran has also been recorded saying death to Israel and that they have a nuke that could wipe Israel off the map. Now, as we get to the next few verses, we read where some of Israel's enemies will come from. It lists names that are the ancient names for modern-day Jordan, Arabia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, the Sinai Peninsula, and Philistia, which is the modern-day Gaza Strip. So in those verses, we learned that not only will people from the Gaza Strip and also other neighbors who live in the places surrounding Israel, they'll not only be united in eradicating Israel, but they also will conspire against Israel together in order to wipe it off of the face of the map. Okay, now here's where things get even more interesting. Ezekiel 37 and 38 talk about how after Israel is regathered in their homeland, a large force from the north will attack Israel, and it's referred to as Magog in the Bible. Now, as Greg Laurie recently pointed out in his viral video, some interpreters believe that Magog refers to Russia since Russia is a large force from the north. There's also other reasons they believe that, but we won't get into that here. But the Bible talks about how Magog will be pulled into a conflict with Israel by the hooks in her jaw, possibly implying reluctance. And the one who's doing the pulling is Persia, which is modern day Iran. So if this interpretation is correct, that means that Iran will bring Russia with it to attack Israel in the end times. But what also makes this interesting is that it's only recently that Iran and Russia began a new relationship, as Iran has been helping them with.
Okay, this is where things start coming together. Start coming to a head point. Pay attention.
Weapons for the Ukraine war. This is why some believe that if Russia gets involved in attacking Israel, then it's yet another sign of the times. But it doesn't stop there either. As we read what will eventually happen in Jerusalem, in Zechariah, God says that he will make Jerusalem like an intoxicating drink that makes the nearby nations stagger when they send their armies to besiege Jerusalem and Judah. Now, what's interesting about this is that Israel is such a small place on the map, slightly smaller than the size of New Jersey. And the fact that it's been able to stay protected in spite of its neighboring countries wanting to completely destroy it is really remarkable when you think about it. But as we continue to read, we learn that eventually
the size of New Jersey and the surrounding countries cannot completely overtake it. That's pretty incredible. It sounds almost just like a straight up miracle that nothing has actually happened or they have not lost ground.
Eventually, all the nations are going to be against Israel. But of course, as it stands today, America doesn't seem to be against Israel. Last week, President Joe Biden said that America will never fail to have Israel's back.
But the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back.
Then again, who knows?
I'm surprised. Never mind. I'm just surprised that he said that. That was a full sentence, guys. God, see, miracles happen, bro.
What can unfold under the next few months or even the next few years. Right now, there's actually plenty of scenarios that could cause America to not want to be involved in this war and could also turn us against Israel. But of course, only God knows the specifics of what's going to happen next. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that there's multiple different views and theologies that have an impact on how people view these end time scriptures. The purpose of this video isn't to say which one is right or to go into the different views, but only to explain why a lot of Christians believe that this is a strong sign that we're in the end times, unlike anything else before.
Now, to understand this completely, look up. I don't want to give you everything. I want you to eat a little bit of the meat instead of just drinking the milk. There are beliefs, and each one can be, this is where it's so annoying sometimes, but people can take things and make it where it will fit whatever they believe. For instance, there is a theological belief based on scripture for pre-trib. Pre-trib means pre-tribulation. And so there is an end time coming where there will be pretty much wars, rumors of wars. It's going to be famine. It's going to be one world. And think about this, one world order, one world government, one currency. And if you think about things that are happening right now with currency, you can see that it will be very easy to make it where, as I think it's North Korea, as easy to stop or release your money based on what the government wants you to do. Now, why is that important? Because in the end times, in the middle of the end times, there will be what is called a mark of the beast. Now, for clarification to some of y'all, you cannot accidentally take the mark of the beast. I believe it is a choice, whether you choose because they're starving your family and you can't get food for your family or whatever the reason may be, or out of fear. But there will be a one money, a one currency. And I believe, see, back then it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, but the more technology progresses, the more it makes sense that money can be digital, tracked, and controlled. Now, if you think about you feeding your family, being able to get groceries, being able to get gas, being able to do anything that we do every day to live that requires money, if it is a digital currency only, your money can be stopped. My money can be stopped. It can be held. This just happened to me with QuickBooks for over a year, or not over a year, about 8 months. They did not take out fees, and I don't know why. They had some reason, blah, blah, blah. Well, so I had people paying me money through QuickBooks so I keep track of all my stuff. And they garnished about 10 invoices, including, and I got a call about this, including the sales tax. So they took money. I already had to pay my sales tax for this quarter. So they took that money too that I have to now get back from them. But that's the power they had. They didn't have to give a reason. They didn't have to do anything. They just held my money up until I called them. That's going to be that's exactly how they're going to be able to do it. And that's how people are going to end up being forced into taking the mark of the beast, because they feel like they have to be able to provide, buy, and travel and do whatever else they got to do in life.
And if you were to ask me what I personally believe, honestly,
oh, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. So pre-trib, mid-tribulation, and I think post-tribulation. So some people believe the rapture, which is the Jesus coming back for his people. That's going to happen before any of that bad stuff happens. And there's some that think it's going to happen in the middle of everything going on. And then there's some that think we're going to have to suffer through it all. And then Jesus will come back and rescue us from all the tribulation and struggles and troubles and all that stuff. So personally, I pray and hope and think that it'll be pre-tribulation, but I don't know. And the reason I say that is because I don't think Christians, because they're doing such pushback now with the transgender stuff and all that, I don't think if there's enough Christians in the world that this one world government and order and things like that can be forced on us, because we'll stand up for what we consider to be wrong, for them to be able to do that to us. But then again, you never know. You never know who's actually evil. I mean, like people staying in office when they should have been out a while ago, if you're talking politics. How in the world do people for instance, if I disappear, I didn't kill myself. If Hillary Clinton did and there's people that have seen actual evidence, yet there's no conviction. Nobody has to answer for anything. So what is even the point?
I try to keep a humble approach to this topic since the first time that Jesus came, it didn't unfold according to everyone's expectations. And there's no reason to think that the same thing won't be true for the second time that he comes either.
And so that right there is why I don't preach end times. Like I say, get your life ready. I preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, but I do not preach the end times because there is no actual concrete of what will or won't happen or where we are right now in that timeline. And so whatever I preach could be inaccurate, and I am not willing to preach false doctrine or gospel, even as an accident from the pulpit. Now, I can be on this podcast and give you my opinion, but I'm not going to preach it from a pulpit God has given me and put me in charge of to be the shepherd, because I'm not going to lead my flock that way. I'm not going to do things on what I'm assuming. I'm not going to give opinions from the pulpit. I'm going to give facts. I'm going to give theologically sound, biblically sound doctrine from the pulpit, not what I assume or what I think. That's what this podcast is for. So that's why I don't talk about stuff like that from the pulpit.
And given that no man knows the day or the hour, we should all approach this topic with humility. But no matter what your views are on the end times, there's still two things that we should keep in mind when thinking about all of this. First, pray, because the Bible tells us to pray for peace in Jerusalem. And also, we should never forget to pray for all of those people who are suffering right now as the violence of this war continues to escalate. We should be praying for everyone, the Israelis, the Gazans, and even Hamas. Keep in mind, no one is too far from God's touch because, as I mentioned in my last video, the son of the Hamas co-founder left Hamas and became a Christian. That in itself proves that God can save anyone. Now, as we start to talk about these things like prophecy, it can be easy for us to forget that these are real people who have had real lives destroyed by this war. So we need to keep our hearts and attention not only focused on scripture, but also the humanity of the people being impacted.
And this is why I like this guy's YouTube channel, because he uplifts and he really breaks down things very well, but he also ends with a good message of hope and what we should be doing. So I really appreciate that.
Faith and Failures Podcast.